Everyone, thank you for being here this morning. My name is James Gallagher and I'm the Assembly Republican leader. Just not that long ago, I stood on these same steps with my caucus when we introduced the California Promise. Today, I stand here alongside our newly elected and returning members of our caucus to tell you that we are ready from day one to fulfill the California Promise and introduce real solutions to get our state back on track. In a moment, you're going to get an opportunity to hear from several of our returning and our new members as they will be leading legislation that will help restore the Golden State. Now, I never know what to expect from a new legislative session, but you can count on this from Assembly Republicans. We can have an affordable California, and we will be working to deliver solutions that will allow families in this state to afford their home, their gas, their utility bills, and groceries. We are going to work to reduce taxes for hardworking Californians and give tax credits to help families and renters stay afloat during this time of sky-high inflation. We will build a safe California. We will introduce real reforms by increasing penalties for possession and the sale of fentanyl, which is poisoning and killing our kids. We want to keep our communities and our schools safe. We want to combat gun violence with sentencing enhancements and be advocates for victims. Finally, have some advocacy for victims in this building, including human trafficking victims. We can have a quality education in California, and we will work to allow parents to obtain the best education for their kids by providing them with choices so they're not stuck in failing school systems, and make sure that their money, the money of this state, follows the kid. We will ensure that parents have a voice in their child's school curriculum and that there is transparency in how our schools are performing. We will have real solutions for homelessness. California has been failing on this front, and the governor and the Democratic supermajority own it. We want to bring real solutions that will help get people off of the street, out of encampments, and into programs that address the underlying causes of homelessness, like drug addiction and mental illness. We will fight for a reliable water supply. We will upgrade outdated water systems and build new water storage in this state. We will champion those policies to ensure that our cities and our farms and all the people of California have access to clean and reliable water. And finally, we will build a fire-safe California. This is close to my heart. I represent Paradise. We've seen these fires for far too long, and it's an issue of policy. We need to get into our forests and wildlands and do the cleaning, the fuels reduction that's needed to keep our communities safe. And we will be championing policies that do just that. So without further ado, I want to invite up our first speaker from our caucus, Assemblymember Jim Patterson.
Thank you, James. I will be introducing the Fentanyl Dealers Accountability Act. These are the facts. We have found a huge loophole in law in the state of California that is letting fentanyl dealers free. Instead of being charged for a felony, they get a misdemeanor, they're out on the street, back in the schools, and dealing. How has this happened? Well, first of all, we all know the dangers of fentanyls. We know the dangers of overdose, even on school campuses. The loophole is this, that it is sending dangerous drug dealers and suppliers right back onto the street. Why? Under California law, the penalties for these dealers are currently based on the weight of the drug. If I had a beaker in this hand and a beaker in this hand, the amount of heroin that would kill people would be about this much in the beaker. The amount of fentanyl in this beaker would be like grains of salt. Because so little fentanyl that weighs so little can do so much damage, the best our district attorneys can do is to cite them for a misdemeanor and they're out on the streets. We're going to change that. So there will be, in fact, a new standard for fentanyl that will, in fact, turn a small bit into a felony. In Fresno, California, our district attorney has been faced with a lot of cases of fentanyl. Recently, our district attorney arrested a dealer with over 1,100 pills. The fentanyl weight of those pills were so much underneath the felony weight of heroin that individual was cited out on a misdemeanor and is back on the streets. We're going to end that with the Fentanyl Dealers Accountability Act. This will be targeted to the dealers and their suppliers by reducing the weight that kicks in the charge that is a felony. This is an absolute common sense public safety bill that I will be introducing shortly. There is no reason under God's heaven that every Republican and every Democrat in this building should vote for this bill. To vote against this bill is to take sides with the fentanyl dealers, knowing full well that if you reduced the weight limit, you would capture them as felons and they would be put in prison. To do nothing or vote against it would be to keep these fentanyl dealers going through the revolving door that is the so-called criminal justice system in the state of California. The Fentanyl Dealers Accountability Act, it has a number of new members and returning members who will be co-authors. I do believe that this will attract some Democrat votes and some Democrat co-authorships. It should. I'd be surprised and startled if it didn't. The loophole's going to get closed, and finally we're going to be able to hold these dealers accountable with felonies, not merely misdemeanors, and a revolving door out of jail. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Juan Alanis. I represent Assembly District 22. As mentioned before, I'm looking forward to actually co-authoring if possible for that bill as well. As you guys may know, in my career is in law enforcement, so fentanyl is a big thing. So seeing that firsthand and hearing what you guys just heard is great, and I'm very happy for all of us. So thank you, and thank you for being here today. My constituents elected me immediately to go to work and stand with all the Californians. And today, my first day in office, well, I'm looking forward to the real solutions and the real problems that are facing our state. California pays the highest income tax in the nation, leaving far too many families struggling. I promised the people of 22nd Assembly District that I would fight for real policy solutions to ensure that every Californian can afford to live in the Golden State, and this starts today. All of us elected to lead here must help families to do more than just make ends meet. We need to help families thrive, and we can start by lowering tax rates for middle and low income taxpayers. As my colleagues and I are introducing the California Promise Package, I am delivering on my promise to champion and a voice for an affordable California, a safe California, and a California that can provide real solutions to issues that are affecting families now. I'm committed to ensuring that we no longer leave financial burdens on Californians, and instead we provide ways to give a helping hand, like returning more of working families' money back into their own pockets. However, inflation and economic hardship are not the only things making life harder for Californians. Our state is entering its fourth consecutive year in a drought, and our Central Valley farmers are the backbone of the state's economy. Our mountain and valley communities share a symbiotic relationship tied together by water. We need more water storage, and I will be introducing legislation that will put funding in place to ensure that we can build sufficient water infrastructure for all Californians, including our farmers in the Central Valley who feed the world. These are not partisan issues. They are real issues facing real people who demand real results. I look forward to working alongside my colleagues and we bring the cost of living in California down, introduce real solutions to deal with our water crisis, and invest to make our state more fire safe. Thank you guys.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I'm Diane Dixon. I represent Assembly District 72 in Orange County, and I'm delighted to be here with my colleagues to deliver the California Promise. Along the same lines of the high cost of living in California, my constituents sent me here because they too are concerned about affordability as well as public safety. As someone who has served in local government, I'm familiar with the negative impacts of the many unfunded mandates that come out of this building. The supermajority in Sacramento continues to pass policies that hurt the average family and raise taxes and increase the cost of living, making all everyday costs out of reach for families in California. I will be introducing two bills today to help bring common sense policymaking back to Sacramento. The first will address affordability and help ensure that those on a fixed income can live a decent life in California and not move to Tennessee or Texas or Florida and states in between. Californians spend more on transportation costs than any other household expense anywhere in America. My first policy measure allows the annual gas increase to be suspended. You all know that it takes effect automatically every July 1st. And when higher gas taxes impose a high undue burden on low-income and middle-class families, this simply must change. As inflation drives up the cost of living, the legislature must do everything in our power to reduce pain at the pump. And it would be great if this were in place during this holiday season when everyone is experiencing the high cost of inflation. My second measure will enhance public safety in our communities. Prop 57 gave the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation the power to grant additional credit above and beyond the statutory limits for, quote, good behavior and approved rehabilitative or educational achievements. With this power, the department issued regulations that significantly expanded early release credit earning for incarcerated individuals. How these credits are calculated, however, no one knows. There is no transparency, and they're not subject to public record requests. For example, just here in Sacramento, CBS News was hoping to understand how a defendant in that major gang-related multiple homicide case that occurred here a few months ago was able to be released from a prior 10 years felony sentence after serving only 4 years. He was released in less than half of his sentence. The Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation denied the news station's attempt at a public records request due to confidentiality of credit earning information. The measure I am introducing today addresses this issue of transparency. It is important that Californians are privy to know how the department is using its discretion. Simply asking for transparency, we are simply asking for transparency for the background, for the programming records of the individual incarcerated individual. When an inmate serves less than half of his or her sentence, the public is entitled to know why that is the case. Bottom line, if this individual in the multiple homicide gang case that is pending now, if he had not been released early, he would not be a defendant in that case that is pending. These bills are part of the Assembly GOP's California Promise Initiative package, and together, as we are all working and to secure bipartisan support. And across the aisle, there's many bills here today, including this one, that should receive bipartisan support. Will provide confidence for Californians to feel more secure in their communities and in their family lives. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Bill Asaley. I represent Assembly District 63, which covers Western Riverside County. My constituents sent me up here to Sacramento to help fulfill the California promise, hold Sacramento's supermajority accountable, and create responsible policies that restore our justice system. That is why me and my colleagues have already been at work drafting legislation that we will be introducing shortly. As a former deputy district attorney and federal prosecutor, I have seen our state's justice system torn apart piece by piece by soft on crime policies that protect criminals over victims and deny justice. Enough is enough. One of the bills I'll be introducing will be to restore the 10-year mandatory minimum. If you use a firearm to commit a violent offense, you will go to prison for 10 years. That should be passed. California's justice system is not the only system that needs to be saved. Our schools are in crisis and need an overhaul as well. I'm excited to introduce a bill that will ensure quality education for the kids that need it most. The Freedom to Choose Excellence in Education Act will increase education equity for most vulnerable students while holding struggling schools accountable. Students at the lowest performing schools will have the option to transfer to a higher performing school within their district or even outside their district if necessary. The quality of your education should not depend on your income. California has long neglected our infrastructure as well. So I will be introducing legislation that will expedite judicial review for water storage and conveyance projects that our state desperately needs. These legislative solutions deliver on a promise that we made in the campaign, the California Promise to every Californian. They sent us up here to deliver, and that work starts today. Thank you.
It's an honor to be with you here today as the newly elected Assembly member for the 7th Assembly District here in Sacramento County. My name is Josh Hoover. I am excited to get to work on behalf of my constituents. With that in mind, I want to highlight 5 pieces of legislation I will be introducing with my colleagues to help restore the California Promise as we've been discussing today and address some of our state's most pressing challenges, including public safety, education, and housing. On public safety, I will be introducing legislation to restore the pre-Proposition 47 penalties on repeat petty theft offenders, essentially allowing for a felony if the offender has 3 or more prior convictions. This bill will give voters the opportunity to reform Prop 47 in a meaningful way. We have seen examples of brazen retail theft in communities across California, including my own. It's time that we do right by the small business owners in our districts and restore some accountability in our criminal justice system. On the topic of education, I'll be introducing 2 proposals. The first, I will be working with Assemblymember Asaley to reduce barriers for families looking to move their students out of underperforming schools. The second will increase funding for career technical education programs to ensure students have access to meaningful and diverse career pathways. You will hear me talk a lot about our need to improve education in our state because we are simply not meeting the mark. We are 50th in literacy in the entire country. Our 8th graders are performing math at a 5th grade level. Before the pandemic in 2019, we ranked near the bottom of the nation across the board. We were 46th in 4th grade math, 42nd in 8th grade math, 45th in 4th grade reading, and 41st in 8th grade reading. Then we added the longest school shutdowns in the entire nation, and now our kids are more behind than ever before. We must do more to support our students, and that will be one of my main priorities in the Assembly. On school safety, I am introducing a bill to prohibit homeless encampments within 500 feet of schools. Homelessness here in Sacramento County has risen 67% over the last 3 years, and we recently passed San Francisco for the first time. This has created serious safety concerns in some of the schools that I previously represented on the school board in Folsom and Rancho Cordova. I can think of few priorities greater than making sure parents feel safe sending their children to school. And finally, on the topic of housing, I am proposing legislation that will incentivize housing production by providing property tax bonuses to cities and counties that approve projects and increase the supply of housing in their communities. The American dream of home ownership is becoming harder and harder to attain in California for many young families. We need to do more to make housing affordable and accessible for everyone in our state. I look forward to working with my colleagues in the legislature on both sides of the aisle to advance these proposals in the coming year. Thank you.
Wow, good morning. I only have about 10 minutes of remarks here, so please bear with me. My name's Joe Patterson, and I will soon represent significant portions of El Dorado and Placer counties. I'm also a father of 4 young children, with my oldest being 9 and my youngest being 1. These kids have to worry about things that I didn't have to worry about growing up. For example, a couple years ago, a 17-year-old child in my neighborhood lost his life after being poisoned by fentanyl. In California, we need to strengthen these laws. Can anyone tell what this is? Is it candy or is it fentanyl? These kids don't know, and we have to do more to get these out of our schools. So I'm introducing 2 pieces of legislation on fentanyl today. One of them will advise traffickers of fentanyl that they can be charged with murder if somebody dies as a result of fentanyl poisoning. And secondly, would require schools to have Narcan on campus in the event a kid is poisoned. The reality is a ton of these are making it in our community, and we haven't been doing a lot about it, and that's going to change. And finally, going on the parental theme, I'm introducing a piece of legislation that does the crazy thing of allowing parents to view curriculum in schools. So that'll be introduced in a couple days here. It's not quite ready, but I'm looking forward to that as well. And with that, I look forward to pushing forward the California Promise and welcoming my next colleague.
Good morning. My name is Kate Sanchez, and I am representing the 71st District of California. Thank you for joining us today. Especially for many of us, this is the day we have been waiting for a long time. We will finally be sworn in and have the ability to start working for the constituents that put us here. Californians deserve safe communities, and our students deserve a quality education. As someone who has an extensive background in public service, I am looking forward to fixing the failed Democrat policies and continuously broken promises. In order for our future generations to succeed in California, we have to give them the right tools and the right environment to do so. I also believe in providing better quality education for our children by ensuring that the money from grants and other resources actually follows the student. Creating a successful environment will allow for our future generations to thrive, but we have to make sure we are able to provide the right tools to do so. The California Promise is centered on redirecting California in the right direction. Investing in our children is investing in the future, which is why I am pushing forward legislation that ensures supplemental and concentration grants are serving our students, programs, and personnel only. As part of the California Promise, I also look forward to working with my colleagues to make California a safer state by standing up for victims of human trafficking. I am honored to advocate for human trafficking victims by introducing legislation that would provide funding to make sure the same prosecutor is handling cases throughout all stages. This would help save the victim from being traumatized once again and allow prosecutors to develop more expertise in the area. I am excited to work with my colleagues and get bills passed and many other proposals you are hearing about today across the finish line. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. But because of the weather, so I promise that it's really fast and short and sweet. Good morning, everyone. I am Trita, representing Assembly District 70. I would like to start off by thanking everyone for this opportunity. I'm excited to get to work to get our state head in the right direction. I'm honored to work with my Republican colleagues on the California Promise, which will provide a safe, affordable, and prosperous California for all. This legislative packet highlights policies solutions for ongoing concerns all Californians have day to day, including homelessness, crime, quality education, drought, and the devastation caused by the wildfires. Today, I'm proud to stand with my colleagues as I will lead this legislation that will make California safer. This legislation will ensure that the long sentences are imposed on individuals who use or are armed with firearms during the commission of serious crime that make California a safer state. I will stand with the victim of gun crime who deserve justice. And this solution will effectively discourage individuals who use or armed with or provide firearms during the commission of serious crime. As part of the California Promise, and we also work for better solution to homelessness. Californians are really fed up with the lack of progress that has been made so far. We need to pass effective policy that will get people off the street and into the program that address issues like mental illness and addiction. And we work diligently with my colleagues as we propose solutions that will help California family afford grocery and gas and reserve excessive fee and regulations. We continue to fight for California taxpayers who deserve efficiency, transparency, and competence from their government. I stand here ready to work. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, well, you can see why I'm so excited by our Republican caucus. I'm proud of the diversity of our new caucus, of the innovative ideas that we're ready to get to work on from day one. You've heard all these ideas, and we're ready to go and introduce bills right now. We're ready to get to work, and we're asking our Democratic colleagues to work with us to help solve the most pressing problems that Californians are facing today. And I also want to say definitively that this caucus will oppose the new gas tax that this governor is proposing to place on Californians. The last thing that we need to do is increase the costs on Californians who are already paying far too much. So I thank you for being here today. I'd be happy to answer a couple of questions, but I know we are going to have to go in there and get sworn in here pretty soon. So, and I know some of the gotta get our families in there and get everybody set up. Anyways, any questions? Yes, sir. Alexa.
Just a quick one on this last point about the gas tax, and obviously you're opposed and worried that it will increase costs, but I wonder, are you comfortable with the level of profits that oil companies are making right now? Do you have any concerns about the fact that there was these record profits in that last quarter as prices were so high in California?
I'm not comfortable with the level of cost that Californians are paying each and every day in this state. That's what I'm uncomfortable with. And I'm tired of the policies that keep coming out of this building that are increasing those costs. People are struggling out there. Sky-high inflation brought about by policies that have increased your utility bills, your gas bills. Those are the things that we need to be focused on. And that's what we're going to be opposing. It's not lost on anybody that this proposal it's going to get passed on to us. It will get passed on to the California consumer, and that's unacceptable. Any other questions? All right. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. And we will see you very soon.